Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I am literally so thrilled to have you here for this explainer. If you survived our deep dive into the ERC 1155 implementation overview, huge congratulations. Seriously, take a breath, you earned it. But now we're shifting gears right into our introduction to RESTful APIs for Solana module. Today's topic is integration strategies and next steps. We're finally moving beyond just firing off simple JSON requests and starting to lay down the actual architectural blueprints so your Web2 ops can flawlessly and, more importantly, safely talk to the Web3 world.
All right, here's our agenda for today. 1. The librarian and archive. 2. 3 API strategies. 3. Testing workflows. 4. Anatomy of action endpoints. And 5. Wrap up.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the librarian and archive bridging REST and on-chain state. To really get this, I want you to think of your REST API as a highly caffeinated librarian sitting at the front desk, just firing off answers to questions at lightning speed. But that librarian gets all their info from the archive, which is the Solana ledger. Now, the archive is the absolute unquestionable truth, but it's kind of like a giant, heavy stone vault. It takes a second to actually check it. If the librarian hands out old info, well, chaos ensues. But if they run to the back vault for every single tiny question, the line out the door is going to stretch for miles. It's all about finding that balance.
Let's look at section 2, 3 API integration strategies, choosing your operational mode.
So, how exactly do we balance this speedy librarian and this slow vault? Well, we use 3 specific operational strategies. First up is cache first. This is where the librarian just hands you a quick summary. It's incredibly fast, but maybe a few seconds old. Next, we have chain first. This is bypassing the desk and going straight to the vault. It's definitely slower, but it's perfectly accurate. Think of it like checking your exact bank balance before you try to buy a house. And finally, orchestrated-write, which you use when you actually need to change something on the blockchain and manage that entire lifecycle.
And that brings us to the golden rule. Ask yourself, what is my X, right? If a 30-second delay completely ruins your user's day, you absolutely need to go chain first. If it doesn't matter that much, cache first is your best friend. Just make absolutely sure that you pass a header letting the client know exactly how fresh that data is, so nobody gets hit with a nasty surprise later.
Moving on to section 3, testing API to chain workflows, preventing chaos.
Because honestly, nobody wants to be the developer whose API tells a user they own $1 million NFT that actually sold to someone else 5 minutes ago. That is exactly why we use a layered testing blueprint. You start small with unit tests just for your pure logic. Then you step up to integration tests using a fake server to see how your API handles blockchain responses. Finally, you run end-to-end testing against a local validator to test the entire journey. Master this stack and your app essentially becomes bulletproof.
Let's dig into section 4, anatomy of action endpoints, real-world application.
Let's make this super concrete by building an endpoint to reserve an NFT. The secret here? The endpoint is not the transaction itself, it's a workflow. First, you validate the inputs, basically checking their ID at the door. Second, you persist their intent to buy. Third, you hand off all the heavy lifting to a background worker to actually submit the Solana transaction. And fourth, you set up a reconciliation loop. Think of this as a digital detective that constantly pulls and verifies if the transaction actually went through.
Actually, let's pause on step 2 for a second, because you've got to meet your new best friend, the idempotency key. This is your magic shield against that impatient user who aggressively smashes the buy button 12 times because their Wi-Fi is lagging. It's just a unique ID sent by the client. If your server sees that same ID again, it instantly knows, oh, this is a retry, not a brand new purchase. It completely prevents accidental double spending and keeps your state clean. Now, while that background worker is busy doing its thing, you really can't afford to fly blind. You need lightweight health checks. Omitting events like intent received, submitted, or failed leaves a crucial breadcrumb trail. Why does this matter so much? Because when a user inevitably complains their NFT is stuck, you don't have to panic. You just check the logs, see exactly where the workflow stopped, and fix it right there. And that brings us to section 5, next steps and wrap-up, preparing for action. Okay, here is your cheat sheet. Label every single endpoint by its operational mode. Test in 3 layers. Never, ever skip your idempotency keys, and always instrument your loops. To see the actual code implementation for these concepts, I highly encourage you to check out the broader learning programs at Forge College to truly master these Web3 patterns. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Which of your read-only endpoints are you going to annotate and convert into a safe, intent-only action endpoint next? Bring your annotated scripts to the next lesson, and be sure to visit forge.college to continue your deep dive. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.